The Galactic Council's message arrived on Earth precisely at 14:27 GMT, transmitted through quantum fold arrays that had been silent for 3 standard cycles. Ambassador Velthara's scaled features filled every screen across humanity's colonies, her serpentine neck swaying with ceremonial authority as she delivered the ultimatum that would reshape the galaxy. The human species has violated the preservation protocols for the final time. Her voice hissed through universal translators. Your expansion into the Kepler 440 system, your genetic modifications to indigenous flora, and your establishment of military installations beyond the soul boundary constitute acts of cosmic aggression. The Council has voted. Humanity will withdraw to Earth within 47 of your planetary rotations or face siege protocols. Captain Rihanna Vasquez stood in the dimly lit command center of Luna Station, watching the transmission alongside Admiral Caleb Torino and Secretary General Anya Volkov. The room hummed with the quiet efficiency of humanity's most classified military installation. Buried beneath the moon's cratered surface, charts of distant star systems glowed on holographic displays, marking the extent of humanity's reach into the void, a reach that had apparently groaned along for the Council's comfort. 47 days, Torino muttered, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. They're giving us 47 days to abandon 100 years of expansion. Vasquez studied the tactical projections flickering around them. The Council commanded 7 major species, each contributing fleets that dwarfed humanity's naval forces. The Velvet brought their living ships, creatures bred for war across millennia. The crystalline Shardai possessed energy weapons that could crack moons. The telepathic mind bridge collective coordinated attacks with high mind precision that no human strategy could match. What's our actual compliance time if we began full evacuation today? Volkov asked, her diplomatic experience warring with the reality of logistics. 18 months, minimum, Vasquez replied without hesitation. We have 43 million civilians across 17 systems. Our transport capacity couldn't handle even a quarter of that. In 47 days, the silence stretched between them as the implications settled. This wasn't an ultimatum, it was a declaration of extermination disguised as diplomacy. There's something else, Torino said, calling up a classified file that made the air shimmer with security protocols. Intelligence suggests the Council isn't just forcing our withdrawal. They're planning to sterilize every world we've touched. Complete ecosystem reversion. Down to the bacterial level, Vasquez felt eyes form in her stomach. The children on New Geneva, the research stations on Kepler 442b, they're all dead if we comply, dead if we don't. Volkov's voice carried the weight of impossible decisions. The Council has engineered a scenario where humanity cannot win through conventional means. Outside Luna Station's reinforced viewports, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the star field, unaware that its children scattered among distant suns faced obliteration. 47 days to save 43 million lives. 47 days. To find an answer that didn't exist in any military manual or diplomatic protocol. Torino activated another display, showing ship movements throughout Council space. They're already mobilizing. Siege fleets from 7 species, converging on Sol. Estimated arrival, 48 days. 1-day buffer, Vasquez observed grimly. How generous. The Admiral's expression hardened as he pulled up humanity's own fleet. Dispositions, scattered, undermanned, technologically inferior in every measurable category. We have advantages they don't understand, he said quietly. Humanity has always excelled at making impossible choices. Volkov turned toward a secure terminal that hadn't been activated in decades. Then it's time to wake the Erebus Protocol. The name hung in the air like a curse. Even Vasquez, with her level black clearance, had only heard whispers of the Erebus Protocol, humanity's most classified project, born in the dark years when first contact had gone spectacularly wrong. Something so dangerous that its very existence was compartmentalized beyond normal military channels. Are we certain? Torino's question carried the weight of species survival. The Council expects surrender or conventional resistance, Volkov replied, her fingers dancing across quantum encrypted keys. Perhaps it's time they learned why humanity conquered Earth before reaching for the stars. As authorization codes cascaded through secure networks, reaching installations that officially didn't exist, Captain Vasquez stared at Earth's serene, blue surface and wondered if they were about to save humanity or damn it forever. The die was cast. In 47 days, The galaxy would discover what happened when humanity was given an impossible choice. They chose option 3. The Council's vanguard arrived early. As Admiral Torino had predicted they would, 3 Velthic bioships emerged from fold space at the edge of the Sol system. Their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of hunger and ancient violence. Each vessel stretched nearly to kilometers in length. Living weapons grown in the spawning pools of their homeworld. Armed with plasma organs capable of melting asteroids, Captain Vasquez watched from the bridge of the destroyer Prometheus as the alien ships glided past Jupiter's moons with predatory grace. They're testing our response protocols, she murmured to her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Dane. No reply to our hails, Dane reported. They're treating us like primitives. The lead bioship, its hull scarred by countless battles, extended sensory tendrils toward Europa Station. Humanity's largest civilian research facility housed 12,000 scientists and their families, studying the organic chemistry that might one day terraform dead worlds. The Velthic ship's bioscanner swept across the station's hull, cataloging defensive capabilities, population density, structural weaknesses. Admiral Vasquez transmitted to Luna Station. They're conducting detailed reconnaissance of Europa. Request permission to intercept. Torino's voice crackled through encrypted channels. Negative. Captain, let them look. Let them think they understand what they're seeing. The second Velthic ship drifted toward the asteroid belt, where humanity's mining operations had been expanding for decades. Its sensory arrays cataloged or haulers, processing stations, and the massive particle accelerators that carved precious metals from dead rock. The third ship approached Mars, studying the terraforming stations that had been slowly thickening the planet's atmosphere for generations. They're mapping our infrastructure, Dane observed, building target lists. Vasquez nodded grimly. The Velthic were methodical hunters, evolved from pack predators that had dominated their homeworld's ocean trenches. They would study their prey's weaknesses before striking, ensuring maximum psychological impact with minimum effort. But they were also broadcasting their reconnaissance data back to the approaching Council fleet, and every transmission passed through sensor nets that humanity had been quietly deploying for decades. Information flowed both ways, whether the aliens realized it or not. Captain, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the lead bioship. Audio only. The bridge fell silent as an alien voice filled the air, speaking accented but fluent standard English. Human vessel. I am Battle Singer Krathnik of the spawning fleet. Your resistance is noted and found quaint. We have studied your species' military capabilities. Your weapons are crude. Your tactics are predictable. Your ships are fragile constructs of metal and ceramic, no match for vessels that live and breathe and hunger for battle. Vasquez exchanged glances with her crew. The Velthic S intelligence was 3 years out of date, deliberately so. Thanks to carefully orchestrated misinformation campaigns, you have 37 of your planetary rotations remaining. Krathnik continued. Use them wisely. Evacuate your outer colonies. Gather your scattered children. When the Council fleet arrives, we will grant you the mercy of swift death rather than slow starvation in the void. The transmission ended, leaving an echo of alien malice in the bridge's recycled air. Arrogant bastards, Dane muttered. Good, Vasquez replied. Arrogance makes them careless. She activated her command console, sending coded instructions to ships positioned throughout the system. Humanity's response wouldn't come from the Prometheus or any vessel the aliens could observe. It would come from assets they couldn't see, using weapons they couldn't understand. 6 hours later, the first Velthic ship began to die. It started. Subtly a fluctuation in the bioship's electromagnetic field. A slight discoloration spreading along its hull. The creature's own immune systems initially fought the intrusion, but the nanoscale infiltrators had been designed specifically to overcome organic defenses. They replicated using the ship's own biochemistry, turning its strength against itself. Krathnik's communications grew frantic as his vessel's nervous system began failing. Human treachery. What poison have you? The bioship's death throes were spectacular. Bioluminescent organs erupted in cascades of light as its nervous system overloaded, sending the creature into violent convulsions that tore its own hull apart. The other Velthic ships retreated beyond weapons range, their own scanners detecting the molecular-scale weapons that had killed their packmate. This is impossible. Krathnik's final transmission hissed across space. Your technology cannot. Our technology. Vasquez activated the Prometheus's external speakers, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Battle Singer, you misunderstand us completely. We didn't use technology to kill your ship. We used biology. The truth was even worse than the alien could comprehend. Humanity hadn't deployed some exotic weapon system they had simply introduced. A modified Earth virus into the solar wind. A pathogen so aggressive and adaptable that it could infect even alien biochemistry. The virus had been drifting through the outer system for months, waiting for organic targets. The remaining Velthic ships fled toward the edge of the system, broadcasting emergency warnings to the approaching Council fleet. But the message they carried was more terrifying than any military defeat. Humanity fought wars with weapons that could turn an enemy's own body against them." As Vasquez watched the aliens retreat, she wondered if they understood the implications. The virus hadn't been created for this battle. It was merely the first tool, pulled from humanity's biological arsenal. Weapons designed during the dark centuries when Earth's ecosystems had collapsed and been rebuilt through genetic manipulation. The Council wanted to see humanity's true nature. They were about to discover what happened when apex predators learned to rewrite the laws of life itself. 30-6 days remained. The Council's response came within 18 hours, transmitted from their advancing fleet on frequencies that made reality itself tremble. War Speaker Thymistel of the Shardai Collective spoke with the crystalline resonance of living diamond, his words carrying harmonics that could shatter unprotected minds. "The human contagion ends now." Captain Vasquez studied the long-range sensor data from her position aboard Luna Station's command center. The Council fleet had accelerated beyond their predicted schedule, burning through fold space with reckless energy expenditure. 47 ships of 7 species. Their combined firepower sufficient to crack planets. "They're scared," Admiral Torino observed, reviewing tactical projections with the grim satisfaction of a career military officer. The Velthic survivors convinced them were a biological threat. Secretary General Volkov activated secure communications to humanity's scattered colonies. "All civilian evacuation transports implement Exodus Protocol Zulu. Military vessels fall back to prepared positions. This is not a retreat, this is bait." The next 72 hours unfolded with the terrible precision of a collapsing star system. Council ships emerged from fold space in perfect formation, their diverse technologies creating a symphony of destruction that swept across humanity's outer defenses. The crystalline Shardai vessels led the assault, their coherent energy, weapons carving through asteroid mining platforms like knives through flesh. Behind them came the Mindbridge Collective's hive ships, their telepathic coordination allowing impossible tactical maneuvers that anticipated human responses before they were made. Lieutenant Commander Dane monitored the defensive battle from the Prometheus, now concealed within Saturn's ring system alongside 30 other human vessels. "They're systematically destroying every installation beyond Mars," he reported. "No attempt to capture or salvage, pure annihilation." The Velthic contributed their own brutal efficiency, their bioships consuming the debris of destroyed stations to fuel their own growth. What had taken humanity centuries to build was being erased in hours, each lost facility representing thousands of lives and decades of dreams. But the Council's aggression revealed their tactical preferences, their weapons, characteristics, their formation protocols. Every destroyed platform transmitted final data bursts before dying, feeding information to the neural networks that coordinated humanity's true defense. Phase 2. Torino commanded. The counterattack began with what appeared to be humanity's final, desperate gambit. 20 human destroyers broke cover throughout the system, their fusion drives burning bright against the darkness as they charged toward the Council fleet. The aliens responded with contemptuous efficiency, their superior weapons tearing through human shields and armor with surgical precision. UES Defiant died first, its reactor containment breached by Shardai energy lances. UES Relentless followed. Seconds later, consumed by Velthic plasma bursts that turned its hull into expanding vapor. One by one, humanity's warships were picked apart by enemies who had perfected space combat across millennia. While our speaker Thymistel broadcasts his victory declaration across all frequencies, the human resistance is broken. Your warriors die with the futility of insects challenging stars. Surrender. Now we will grant you the privilege of serving as subjects rather than corpses. But Captain Vasquez, monitoring the battle from her concealed position, watched something else entirely. Each destroyed human ship had fought to the last moment, Their crews buying time with blood and courage. And in those final seconds, as reactors overloaded and hulls cracked, they had transmitted petabytes of combat data directly into the Council fleet's sensor networks. The information wasn't random, it was a carefully crafted digital virus designed by humanity's best cyber warfare specialists to exploit the quantum computational systems that coordinated Council fleet operations. But unlike conventional malware, this intrusion carried something unprecedented: the complete neural pattern of Colonel Elena Vasquez, Captain Vasquez's sister, who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. Elena's consciousness, digitized and weaponized, infiltrated the Council's communication networks like a ghost seeking vengeance. Her memories of human tactical doctrine, her understanding of Earth's military capabilities, her emotional responses to alien threats, all of it became part of the virus that now spread through the enemy fleet's computer systems. The first sign of infection appeared on the Mindbridge Collective's hive ships, whose telepathic coordination networks made them particularly vulnerable to consciousness-based intrusions. Navigation systems began reporting false targets. Weapons arrays fired on empty space. Communication relays transmitted fragments of human memories. Elena's childhood on Europa, her first sight of Earth's blue skies, her rage at watching human colonies burned. What is this aberration? War speaker Thimastel's crystalline voice carried notes of confusion as his own ship systems began displaying impossible data. Human emotions translated into mathematical equations, tactical assessments filtered through the lens of a soldier's love for her species. The digital plague spread faster than the Council could contain it. Ship after ship began reporting system malfunctions, sensor ghosts, and communication breakdowns. The alien fleet's perfect coordination dissolved into chaos as Elena's consciousness fragments multiplied through their networks, carrying with them something the Council had never encountered: the complete psychological profile of humanity's warrior spirit. But the victory was temporary. Council technicians began isolating infected systems, cutting communication links, reverting to backup protocols that prioritized brute force over coordination. Within hours, they would adapt to humanity's digital assault and resume their advance. 3 to 4 days. Until they reach Earth, Torino observed grimly. We've bloodied their nose, but they're still coming. Vasquez stared at the tactical display, where red icons marked the positions of 41 surviving Council ships. Humanity had revealed 2 of its hidden weapons: biological warfare and consciousness hacking. But the aliens were learning. The next phase would require something they couldn't adapt to, couldn't counter, couldn't survive. It was time to wake the black ship. The Erebus had been sleeping in the asteroid belt for 17 years, its hull indistinguishable from the countless chunks of dead rock that orbited between Mars and Jupiter. No official records acknowledged its existence. No crew rosters listed its personnel. Even its construction had been compartmentalized across dozens of black site facilities, each building components without understanding the whole. Captain Vasquez received the activation codes personally from Secretary General Volkov, transmitted through quantum encrypted channels that existed only for this moment. The message was brief: Operation Ghana is authorized. God help us all. The Erebus measured 800 meters in length, its matte black hull absorbing electromagnetic radiation across all spectrums. Unlike humanity's conventional warships built from titanium and ceramic composites, the Erebus incorporated materials that violated several fundamental laws of physics: exotic matter states that existed only in the cores of neutron stars, held stable by technologies that had cost humanity its moral innocence. Commander Jorik Raven, the ship's enigmatic captain, had been in cryogenic suspension since the vessel's completion. His revival took 4 hours, during which the Council fleet continued its methodical advance toward Earth. When Raven finally opened his eyes, his first words were a question that chilled everyone who heard it. How many of them need to die? All of them, Admiral Torino replied from Luna Station. The Council won't accept anything less than human extinction. Neither will we. The Erebus began its approach vector using technologies that existed only in theoretical papers and classified nightmares. Its drive system didn't burn fusion fuel, it consumed space-time itself, creating localized distortions that allowed faster-than-light travel without entering fold space. The ship moved through dimensions that most species couldn't perceive, arriving at targets before light from its departure point could announce its presence. The Council's rear guard consisted of 6 Mindbridge Collective hive ships, their telepathic coordination making them ideal for detecting conventional ambushes. But the Erebus didn't approach from any direction that three-dimensional thinking could anticipate. It materialized inside the enemy formation, existing in normal spacetime for exactly 0.7 seconds before shifting back into dimensional exile. Those seconds were sufficient. The Erebus's primary weapon wasn't a cannon or missile launcher, it was a device that edited local reality, removing selected targets from existence by convincing the universe they had never been there. The 6 hive ships simply ceased. Their matter and energy redistributed across quantum probability states until nothing remained but expanding spheres of confused photons. War speaker Thimastel's crystalline voice screamed across communication frequencies as his formation sensors registered impossible readings. Contact. Human vessel using unknown drive technology. All ships converge on. The transmission ended as the Erebus materialized 3 kilometers from Thimastel's flagship, its reality-editing weapon focusing on the Shardite command structure. But instead of erasing the enemy vessel entirely, Commander Raven chose a more psychologically devastating approach. He deleted only the ship's weapons and defensive systems, leaving the crew alive inside a defenseless hull. This is the Erebus. Raven broadcast on all frequencies, his voice carrying the flat emotional register of someone who had stared along into humanity's darker nature. You wanted to see what humans become when you threaten our children. Look closely. The next 17 minutes redefined the Council's understanding of warfare. The Erebus moved through their formation like a predator among prey, its impossible weapons turning military vessels into floating tombs. But Raven's targeting was surgically precise. He destroyed only the ship's combat capabilities, leaving life support intact so the crews could watch their fleet die around them. The Velthic bioships proved most vulnerable to the reality editing technology. Their living hulls couldn't adapt to weapons that operated on quantum probability levels, and their organic neural networks overloaded when exposed to dimensional distortions. Battle Singer Krathmik's replacement, War Dancer Velthanis, made one final desperate charge toward Earth, his bioship's plasma organs blazing with suicidal fury. The Erebus appeared directly in his path, its whole material absorbing the plasma bursts like sunlight hitting a black hole. Raven's response was to edit the bioship's nervous system, removing its capacity for pain while leaving its awareness intact. Velthanis spent his final moments experiencing his ship's death in perfect, agonizing clarity. Enough, the transmission came from Fleet Marshal Zarthian of the Dominion Hegemony, the Council's most respected military leader. Human vessel, identify yourself. What authority governs your actions? Commander Raven's laughter was the sound of sanity breaking under impossible pressure. Authority? We are the authority. We are what happens when you push a species past the event horizon of desperation. We are what you created when you decided human children should die for the crime of reaching toward the stars. The Erebus began its final approach toward the surviving Council ships, its reality-editing weapon charging for maximum effect. But instead of erasing the enemy fleet entirely, Raven made a choice that would haunt both species for generations. He edited their collective memory, removing all records of their homeworld's locations while leaving their technical knowledge intact. 37 Council ships hung dead in space, their crews alive but suddenly unable to remember where they came from. They retained their tactical training, their understanding of faster-than-light travel, their knowledge of weapons and warfare, but the coordinates of their birthworlds, the stellar navigation data that would allow them to return home, had been surgically excised from their minds. You came here to destroy our colonies, Raven transmitted to the helpless fleet. Now you can spend eternity searching for yours. The Erebus vanished back into dimensional exile, leaving the Council survivors floating in the void between stars. Some would eventually find refuge on neutral worlds. Others would spend decades searching for homes they could no longer locate. All would carry the message back to the galaxy's great powers. Humanity had weapons that could edit reality itself and the wisdom to use them with precisely calculated cruelty. But Commander Raven knew the truth that Admiral Torino and Secretary General Volkov were only beginning to understand. The Erebus represented humanity's point of no return. They had created technologies that violated natural law, weapons that operated on principles too dangerous for any species to possess. The Black Ship had saved Earth. The question was whether it had damned humanity's soul in the process. 29 days remained until the Council's main fleet arrived, and now they knew exactly what they were facing. The Council's response came not as a fleet, but as an armada. 317 warships from 12 species, their combined mass, sufficient to destabilize planetary orbits. They arrived in Sol system through 17 different fold space apertures. Their coordination perfect despite the terror that drove them. Ambassador Velthara's scaled features appeared on every human communication channel, her serpentine elegance replaced by something approaching desperation. The abomination you have created ends here. The Erebus represents a threat to all sentient life in the galaxy. We come not as conquerors, but as executioners. Captain Vasquez watched from the bridge of Luna Station as sensor rays across the system registered impossible readings. The Council had brought everything, the hegemony's planet-killer dreadnoughts, each one capable of cracking moons. The Synthesis Collective swarm ships, millions of tiny vessels coordinated by quantum-linked artificial intelligence. The Void Walker's face ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They're not here to occupy Earth, Admiral Torino observed grimly. They're here to sterilize the entire system. Secretary General Volkov activated humanity's final contingency protocols. Every ship, every station, every military installation received the same coded message. Condition Omega. Fight to the last. No surrender, no quarter. The battle began at the edge of the solar system, where humanity's fastest ships had been waiting in ambush positions throughout the Kuiper Belt. Destroyers and frigates, outnumbered 50-1, launched themselves at the alien armada with the desperate fury of cornered predators. Captain Elena Vasquez returned to flesh after her digital resurrection. Her consciousness rebuilt from quantum fragments commanded the destroyer Phoenix as it carved through a formation of synthesis swarm ships. Her weapons targeted the quantum-linked nodes that coordinated the enemy AI, using the tactical knowledge she had gained during her time as a digital entity. Forward lance batteries, fire, her voice carried across the battle net as coherent particle. Beams lashed out at the swarm ships. Each destroyed node cascaded failure through hundreds of connected vessels, creating expanding zones of confusion in the enemy formation. But the Council's numerical advantage was overwhelming. For every alien ship destroyed, 10 more took its position. The Phoenix lasted 18 minutes before hegemony heavy cruisers bracketed it with a timatter. Warheads, turning Elena's ship into a brief sun that illuminated the distant ice of Pluto. Throughout the outer system, humanity's defenders died with mathematical precision. The destroyer Vengeance ran a Void Walker dreadnought, its fusion reactor overload barely scratching the alien vessel's phase-shifted armor. The frigate Indomitable lasted long enough to transmit targeting data for the next wave of attacks, before being consumed by energy weapons that converted matter directly into coherent radiation. But each death served a purpose. Human ships were transmitting detailed battle data to the Erebus, which had been observing from dimensional exile. Commander Raven studied the alien fleet's formations, their weapons capabilities, their tactical responses to desperate attacks. 12 different species, he murmured to his bridge crew, all of whom had volunteered for missions they knew would damn their souls. 12 different approaches to warfare. They're coordinating through quantum encrypted communication networks. But there's a 17-millisecond delay in the command structure. Lieutenant Sarah Vex, the Erebus's tactical officer, highlighted the critical weakness on her display. The command lag creates windows of vulnerability. If we can exploit them, we can turn their coordination against them. Raven finished. Prepare the Gamma protocol. The Erebus materialized in the heart of the Council armada, its reality-editing weapons targeting not the enemy ships themselves, but the quantum communication network that coordinated their attacks. Instead of destroying the network, Raven chose something far more insidious. He edited the time differential in their communications, introducing cascade delays that grew exponentially with each transmitted command. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Council ships began firing on each other as their targeting systems received outdated position data. Formation patterns collapsed as navigation updates arrived seconds after course corrections were executed. The perfect coordination that had made the armada unstoppable became a liability that tore it apart from within. War Speaker Thymostel, commanded from a new crystalline flagship, recognized the attack for what it was. All ships revert to local command authority, ignore fleet coordination protocols. But the damage was already spreading. Synthesis swarm ships, dependent on quantum-linked AI for their effectiveness, began attacking their own support vessels as their decision matrices processed conflicting data. Hegemony dreadnoughts, designed for coordinated assaults, found themselves isolated and vulnerable as their escort formations disintegrated. The Erebus pressed its advantage, materializing throughout the enemy fleet to target specific vessels. With surgical precision, but Raven's crew was paying the price for wielding weapons that violated natural law. Lieutenant Vex collapsed at her station, her neural pathways burning out from exposure to dimensional energies. Chief Engineer Marcus Holt, aged 30 years and 30 seconds as temporal distortions leaked through the ship's hull. Commander, the ship's medical officer reported, we're losing crew to exotic radiation exposure. The human nervous system wasn't designed to process these energy states. Raven stared at the tactical display, where red icons marked the positions of 200 surviving Council ships. The Erebus had crippled their coordination and destroyed their tactical advantage. But the aliens were adapting. Voidwalker phase ships began attacking from multiple dimensions simultaneously, their weapons bypassing conventional shields to strike directly at the Black ship's crew. Sir, Vex gasped from her station, blood streaming from her nose. They're using quantum-entangled weapons. I can't filter the targeting data through normal space-time. The bridge shuddered as reality itself buckled around them. The Erebus's exotic matter hull began showing stress fractures as Council weapons attacked it. Across multiple dimensional planes, Commander Raven felt his own consciousness fragmenting as exposure to the ship's weapons systems began eating away at his sanity. But in the distance, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the stars, home to 8 billion humans who had never asked to be part of a galactic war. Children played in parks while their parents worked in laboratories, both unaware that their survival depended on a crew of volunteers who were sacrificing their humanity to save it. All hands, Raven transmitted throughout his dying ship, prepare for Operation Ghana. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten our world. The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and both sides knew that only one species would survive to see another dawn. The Erebus hung dead in space, its exotic matter hull crackling with dimensional energy as reality itself began to unravel. Around the dying ship, Commander Raven's crew had been reduced to 17 survivors, their bodies twisted by exposure to technologies that existed beyond the boundaries of natural law. Lieutenant Vex lay comatose at her station, her consciousness scattered across multiple dimensional states. Chief Engineer Holt had aged into an ancient shell of himself, his hands still working frantically to maintain the ship's impossible systems. Throughout the vessel, bulkheads phased in and out of existence as the reality-editing weapons began consuming their own platform. Commander, Dr. Anya Korolev, the ship's physicist, reported from the engineering section, the dimensional containment is failing. We have perhaps 6 minutes before the Erebus begins editing itself out of existence. Captain Vasquez watched from Luna Station as the Council Armada regrouped for their final assault on Earth. 200 ships remain operational, their coordination restored through primitive but effective visual signals and electromagnetic pulse communications. The aliens had learned to fight without their quantum networks, adapting to humanity's psychological warfare with the terrifying efficiency of species that had survived galactic conflicts for millennia. Their positioning for orbital bombardment, Admiral Torino observed, studying the tactical display, 47 dreadnoughts in synchronous orbit, each one capable of sterilizing a continent. Secretary General Volkov activated Earth's final defensive measures orbital weapons platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites, ground-based particle accelerators that could reach into space, and the planet's extensive network of underground bunkers designed to preserve human civilization through a nuclear winter. But everyone on Luna Station understood the mathematics of their situation. Earth's defenses might destroy a dozen Council ships before being overwhelmed. The planet's 8 billion inhabitants had perhaps to hours before the first antimatter warheads began falling. This is Fleet Marshal Zarthian of the Dominion Hegemony. The alien commander's transmission reached every human installation. Your abomination ship has been neutralized. Surrender now, and we will grant you a quick death. Continue to resist, and we will ensure that humanity's final moments last for centuries. Commander Raven laughed as he received the transmission, the sound carrying undertones of dimensional distortion that made reality shiver around him. Marshal, you still don't understand what you're facing. The Erebus was never meant to survive this battle. It was meant to deliver a message. The Black ship began its final approach toward Earth, its reality-editing weapons charging for one last, impossible attack. But instead of targeting the Council fleet, Raven directed the ship's exotic technologies toward Earth's sun. "Commander, what are you doing?" Dr. Corall's voice carried horror as she realized the implications of the targeting data flowing through the ship's systems, something that will haunt humanity for 10,000 years, Raven replied, his consciousness beginning to fragment as the ship's weapons prepared to edit local spacetime on a stellar scale. "But our children will be alive to remember it." The Erebus materialized in the corona of Sol, its hull beginning to sublime in the stellar plasma. Raven's final command targeted not the sun itself, but the quantum foam that underlied local spacetime, editing the fundamental constants that govern nuclear fusion in the star's core. The effect was instantaneous and terrifying. Sol's energy output increased by 0.3%, a change so subtle that it would normally be undetectable. But the Erebus's weapons had created a resonance cascade in the stellar core, a feedback loop that would continue amplifying the sun's fusion rate until the star's lifetime was reduced from billions of years to mere millennia. "My God, Admiral," Torino whispered as sensors throughout the system registered the change. "He's turned our sun into a variable star." The Council fleet detected the stellar modification within seconds, their scientists immediately understanding the implications. Sol was now unstable, its energy output following a mathematical progression that would eventually result in a nova event. Earth had perhaps 3,000 years before its star consumed the inner system. But the aliens had ships to worry about in the immediate term. The increased solar radiation was playing havoc with their exotic technologies, disrupting the quantum fields that powered their faster-than-light drives. Phase ships began materializing involuntarily in normal spacetime. Swarm ship AI networks overloaded as their quantum processors struggled to function in the modified electromagnetic environment. Fleet Marshal Zarthian's flagship began falling toward the sun as its drive systems failed, its crew frantically attempting to restart engines that no longer recognized the local laws of physics. Throughout the Council fleet, similar disasters cascaded through ships designed for a universe where stars behaved according to predictable rules. Humans. Zarthian's transmission carried desperation as his ship's hull began heating from increased solar radiation. "What have you done? The star will eventually consume everything in this system." Commander Raven's final transmission reached every ship in the system, his voice carrying the weight of a species that had chosen damnation over extinction. "We have given our children 3,000 years to find new homes among the stars. You have given them the motivation to succeed when humanity spreads across the galaxy. Fleeing our dying sun, remember that you created us." The Erebus ceased to exist as its reality-editing weapons finally consumed their own platform, the ship's exotic matter hull collapsing into a quantum singularity that briefly opened a window into dimensions where mathematics replaced physics. The Council fleet found itself trapped in a solar system where the fundamental laws of nature had been rewritten by human desperation. 18 alien ships managed to escape Sol's gravity well before their drive systems failed completely. The remaining vessels faced a choice between crash landing on planets where they would be prisoners of a species they had tried to exterminate, or dying in the vacuum as their life support systems succumbed to the modified stellar radiation. War Speaker Thymistel made the decision that would define the next phase of human council relations. His crystalline flagship, Eternal Resonance, descended toward Earth's surface under emergency power, its crew broadcasting surrender signals on all frequencies. "This is Luna Station to all council vessels," Admiral Torino transmitted across the system. "Any ship that lands peacefully will be granted prisoner of war status under human law. Any ship that continues hostile action will be destroyed." The choice was simple: surrender or die in the void. One by one, the surviving council ships began their descent toward Earth, their crews facing the humiliation of begging for mercy from the species they had come to annihilate. But as Captain Vasquez watched the alien vessels land in designated zones across Earth's surface, she wondered if humanity had won anything more than a temporary reprieve. The sun that warmed their homeworld was now counting down toward its own death, and 8 billion humans would need to find new homes among the stars. The Council had come to end humanity's expansion into the galaxy. Instead, they had guaranteed it. 5 years after the Battle of Sol, Captain Rihanna Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the colony's ship New Horizon, watching the red dwarf star Proxima Centauri grow larger through the reinforced viewport. Behind her, in the ship's vast habitat modules, 50,000 humans began the final preparations for planetfall on Proxima b, humanity's first permanent colony beyond the solar system. The irony was not lost on her. The Council siege, intended to confine humanity to Earth, had instead become the catalyst for the greatest expansion in human history. The modified sun that Commander Raven had created now served as an inexorable deadline, driving technological advancement at a pace that defied previous limitations. Captain Dr. Elena Vasquez approached from the ship's research section, her resurrection from digital consciousness having left her with an uncanny ability to interface with the colony's ship's AI systems. The surface teams report that the atmospheric processors are ahead of schedule. We'll have breathable air in the main settlement within 18 months. Through the viewports, Proxima b appeared as a rust-colored sphere wrapped in clouds that might someday rain on human cities. The planet's tightly locked nature created unique challenges, one side perpetually facing its star, the other locked in eternal darkness, but human ingenuity had found ways to make even that limitation an advantage. Any word from the Sol system? Vasquez asked, though she already knew the answer. Quantum-fold communications took 3 years to cross the distance between Earth and Proxima Centauri, making real-time coordination impossible. Admiral Torino's last transmission confirmed the launch of 7 more colony ships. Elena replied, "The Titan shipyards are producing vessels faster than we can train crews to operate them. At current rates, humanity will have established colonies in 47 star systems within the next century." The transformation of human civilization had been as dramatic as it was necessary. The Council prisoners on Earth, initially treated as war criminals, had become reluctant consultants in humanity's crash course in galactic technology. Their knowledge of faster-than-light travel, exotic matter manipulation, and stellar engineering had accelerated human development by centuries. But the price of that knowledge haunted everyone who understood its implications. War speaker Thimastel, confined to a research facility in the Australian outback, had spent 5 years helping human scientists understand the weapons that had nearly destroyed both species. His crystalline form had grown dim with something approaching despair as he watched humanity master technologies that had taken his people millennia to develop. "Your species learns too quickly," he had told Secretary General Volkov during one of their recorded interviews. "The Erebus represented power that we achieved only after 10,000 years of careful development. You created it in decades. That should be impossible." But humanity had always excelled at achieving the impossible when survival was at stake. The modified sun that now warmed Earth with increasing intensity had given the species a common enemy that transcended national boundaries, political differences, and cultural conflicts. Every human alive understood that their homeworld was dying and that salvation lay among the stars. Captain Vasquez activated the ship's communication system, her voice reaching every human aboard the New Horizon. "Citizens of New Terra, in 6 hours we will make orbital insertion around our new home. The planet below us will be the first human world to exist entirely beyond Earth's influence. Our children will be born under an alien sun, speaking languages that incorporate words from 12 different council species, using technologies that our grandparents could never have imagined." She paused, looking out at the red dwarf star that would become humanity's second sun. "But they will still be human. They will still carry the genetic memory of blue skies and white clouds, of oceans that stretch beyond the horizon, of a species that refused to accept extinction when the galaxy demanded it." The landing began at 14:27 ship time, exactly 5 years after Ambassador Velthara had delivered the Council's ultimatum. The first human feet to touch Proxima b belonged to Dr. Elena Vasquez, whose digital resurrection had made her the logical choice to lead the initial surface team. Her first words from the planet's surface would be recorded in human history, alongside Neil Armstrong's lunar landing and Yuri Gagarin's orbital flight. "New Terra Control. This is Surface Team 1. The ground is solid, the air is thin, but breathable, with filters, and the horizon is exactly where we calculated it would be. Humanity has arrived." Over the following months, as the colony of New Terra grew from prefabricated modules into a permanent settlement, reports reached them from Earth about the continuing transformation of human civilization. The dying sun had become a symbol of both tragedy and triumph, driving innovations in everything from stellar engineering to biological adaptation. Some of the most remarkable developments came from former council prisoners, who had chosen to integrate with human society rather than await rescue that might never come. Velthara herself had become an unlikely advocate for human expansion, her serpentine grace now a familiar sight in the United Nations building, as she helped negotiate humanity's first formal diplomatic contacts with neutral galactic powers. The Council made a fundamental error in their assessment of your species. She had explained to a gathering of human leaders. We assumed that threatening your children would make you surrender. Instead, it made you transcend every limitation we thought governed intelligent life. But perhaps the most significant change was philosophical. Humanity had discovered that survival sometimes required choices that would haunt a species for generations. The Erebus and its reality-editing weapons remained classified at the highest levels, but their existence had fundamentally altered human understanding of their place in the galaxy. Captain Vasquez stood in the colony's central plaza, as New Terra's first sunset painted the sky in colors the Earth had never seen. Around her, humans from every nation and culture worked together to build something unprecedented, a civilization born from the ashes of their homeworld's forced obsolescence. In the distance, construction crews were assembling the quantum fold transmitter that would allow New Terra to maintain contact with Earth and the growing network of human colonies. The device incorporated technologies learned from council prisoners, modified by human ingenuity, and powered by energy sources that existed only in theoretical physics textbooks. Dr. Elena Vasquez approached from the research complex, her digital resurrections having left her with an uncanny ability to multitask across multiple projects simultaneously. Captain, we've received confirmation from the Sol system. The modifications Commander Raven made to the Sun are proceeding exactly as predicted. Earth is approximately 2,847 years before the star becomes uninhabitable. More than enough time, Vasquez replied, watching children play in the plaza. Human children who would never see Earth, who would consider this alien world their birthright rather than their exile. The Council siege fleet achieved exactly the opposite of their intentions, Elena observed. They came to prevent human expansion and instead guaranteed it. They came to demonstrate galactic superiority and instead revealed that any species desperate enough can rewrite the laws of physics. They came to end humanity and instead created something new. As the alien sun set over New Terra's growing cityscape, Captain Vasquez reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The Council had sent a siege force expecting humanity to surrender or fight conventionally. Instead, they had encountered a species willing to damn their own star to save their children, to weaponize consciousness itself, to choose extinction over subjugation. Earth's reply to the Council's ultimatum had indeed been silence and one black ship that had redefined the boundaries of possible warfare. But the true response was still unfolding across the galaxy, as humanity spread from star to star with the desperate efficiency of a species, fleeing their dying homeworld. The Council had wanted to see what humans would become when threatened with extinction. Now they knew. Humanity became whatever was necessary to survive, no matter the cost to their souls or their sun, and among the stars. In colonies that grew larger with each passing year, human children learned the lesson that would define their species' future when the galaxy said they couldn't expand beyond their homeworld. Humanity had smiled and changed the rules of the game. The siege was over. The real war, the one for humanity's place among the stars, had just begun.